Hello, my dear students. A very warm welcome to all of you in Shri Jaindra Rank Zone. I am your friend and mentor for the subject Business Economics. In this lecture, we'll continue with Chapter 4, that is Price Discrimination in Different Markets, and in particular, we'll continue with Unit 3, that is the Price Output Determination under Different Market Forms. All the concepts will be covered in the coming series of lectures. So let us resume. This is lecture number 7. This is lecture number 7. In the last class, we had begun with imperfect competition, that is the monopolistic competition. We had seen the meaning and aspects of monopolistic competition, and today we are starting with the features of monopolistic competition. The features of monopolistic competition. The first feature of monopolistic competition is large number of sellers, or you can say that the availability of large number of sellers. So there are a large number of sellers who individually have a small share in the monopolistic market. Just read the text that in a monopolistic or in a monopolistically competitive market, there are large number of independent firms who individually have a small share in the market. That was point number 1. Let's see point number 2 that talks about the product differentiation. So basically the product differentiation, the product of different sellers are differentiated on the basis of brands. Each seller tries to attribute peculiar feature of the product so that to meet consumer needs. Let us see over here that in a monopolistic competitive market, the products of different sellers are differentiated on the basis of brands because competing products are close substitutes. Demand is relatively elastic, but not perfectly elastic. As a perfect competition, firms use size, design, color, shape, performance, features, and distinctive packaging and promotional technique to make their products different from each other. Such differentiation over here may be true or fancied. Brands are generally so much advertised that a consumer start associating with the brand with a particular manufacturer, and the type of brand loyalty is developed automatically, slowly and gradually. Product differentiation gives rise to an element of monopoly to the producer over the competing products. Because of absence of product substitutability, the producer of an individual brand can raise the price of the product knowing that he will not lose all the consumers to other brands. But yes, he will be losing some of the consumers to the other brands. However, since all brands are close substitute of one another, the seller who increase the price of the product will lose some of his customers to his competitors. Thus, the market is a blend of monopoly as well as perfect competition. I believe all of you are clear. Let's see point number 3 that talks about the freedom of entry and exit. So new firms are free to enter into the market and existing firms are free to quit. Barriers to entry are comparatively low and new firms are free to enter in the market if they find profit prospects, and existing firms are free to quit whenever they want. Point number 4, non-price competition. So in a monopolistically competitive market, firms are often in fierce competition with other firms offering a similar product or service, and therefore try to compete on the basis other than price. For example, they indulge in aggressive advertising so that the consumer should associate with the product development, better distribution arrangements, efficient after sale services, and so on. A key base of non-price competition is deliberately the policy of product differentiation. Sellers attempt to promote their products not by cutting prices but incurring high expenditure on publicity and advertisement and other sales promoting techniques. This is because price competing may result in price wars, which may throw a few firms out of the market and reduce profit margins. I believe you understood what we have seen right now. We have seen features of monopolistic competition. The first feature was large number of buyers and sellers. Second was product differentiation. Third was freedom of entry and exit into the market and non-price competition. Competition on the basis of product development, competition on the basis of advertising the product, and so on. The next topic is price output determination under monopolistic competition, equilibrium of a firm. Equilibrium of a firm. In a monopolistically competitive market, since the product is differentiated, each firm does not face a perfectly elastic demand for its product. So each firm makes independent decisions about the price as well as the output. Each firm is a price maker and in a position to determine the price of its own product. As such, the firm is faced with the downward sloping demand curve for its product. Generally, the less differentiated the product is from the competitor, the more elastic the curve will be. If the product differentiation is more, I mean the two products are not very similar, they're a bit different. In that case, you can say that the product elasticity is less. So less elastic curve will be. Just see this figure 29. Short run equilibrium of firm under monopolistic competition, that is supernormal profits. Supernormal profits. As you can see in this diagram, over here the firms obtain equilibrium position at OM units and at OP price. Here the quantity is OM and the price is OP. So at that level we can say that the average revenue is greater than average cost, and since the difference between the average revenue and average cost constitutes supernormal profits, and this is over here depicted by this area, supernormal profits. We can say over here that supernormal profits is a situation where the average revenue is greater than average cost, and over here at a point where MC is equal to MR, that is marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue, MC cutting from below. As you can see over here, this is the point where MC equal to MR and marginal cost curve, the marginal revenue curve from below, MC should be rising. Just write over here the two conditions for equilibrium. Conditions for achieving equilibrium. Conditions for achieving equilibrium. Achieving equilibrium. First, MR equal to MC and MC curve should cut the MR curve from below. That is, MC should be rising. Or we can also say that MC should have positive slope towards upwards. So short run equilibrium of a firm under monopolistic competition, the example of supernormal profits. The firm depicted in figure 29 has a downward sloping but flat demand curve of the product. The firm is assumed to have U-shaped short run cost curve. The conditions for equilibrium of an individual, as you can see over here, the conditions for price output determination and equilibrium of an individual firm may be stated as follows. MC equal to MR, and MC curve must cut the MR curve from below. Figure 29 shows that MC cuts MR curve at point E, and at point E the equilibrium price is OP and the equilibrium output is OM, since per unit of cost is SM, per unit of supernormal profits, that is price minus cost, is QS or PR, and the total supernormal profits is PQSR. PQSR. And this area over here is depicting nothing but supernormal profits. It is also possible that the monopolistically competitive firm may incur losses in the short run. In figure 30 it is shown. The figure shows that per unit of cost, this is HN, is a higher than price, that is OT or KN of the product, and the firm, and the loss per unit, that is KN, is the total loss is GHKT. You see over here. So at this point, this is the marginal, this is the MR equal to MC, and MC should be rising. So equilibrium point, the equilibrium quantity is ON, and this is the equilibrium price over here depicting on the Y axis. The cost is basically over here, the average cost, and the revenue is somewhere down over here, and this is the loss GTH, and this could be A. So this is the loss GHTK. So this is K over here, K. We'll continue. What about long run equilibrium of the firm? If the firm is monopolistically competitive industry on supernormal profits in the short run, there will be an incentive of the new firms to enter into the industry. As more firms enter, profits per firm will go on decreasing on the total demand for the product will be shared among the larger number of firms. This will happen till all supernormal profits are wiped away and all firms can only have normal profits. Thus, in the long run, all firms under monopolistic competition will earn only normal profits. So short run equilibrium of a firm under monopolistic competition with losses we had already seen. See figure number 31 that talks about, that shows the long run equilibrium of a firm in monopolistic competition. Okay, so in this figure, figure 31, long run equilibrium, long term equilibrium of a firm in monopolistic competition, you can see the effects of supernormal profits over here. So if a firm earns supernormal profits in the short run, there will be an incentive for the new firms to enter into the market. There will be an incentive in the new firm to enter into the market. As more firms enter into the market, the profit per firm will decrease as the total number of products will be shared among the larger number of firms in the market, and this will happen till all the profits are wiped away and all the firms earn only normal profit. What is the effect of losses? So in case of losses in the short run, the loss making firms will exit from the market and the process will continue till remaining firms make only normal profits. Let us conclude it by saying it that in the long run all firms are basically monopolistically competitive industry on only normal profits. It's a non-optimum firm situation. So in the long run, the firm has excess capacity, that is, it is producing a lower quantity than its full capacity level. Over here, the firm can expand the output from OQ to OQR, from OQ to OR basically, and reduce the average cost, since B is the lowest point on LSE curve. This is the lowest point on the LSE curve, L, right? However, we can say that the firm will not to do so basically because average revenue can reduce even more than average cost. So this is not an optimum situation. This is not an optimum firm. Each firm will have some excess and unused capacity which is there. Let us see the text and the figure. So figure 31 shows that long run equilibrium of a firm in the monopolistically competitive market. The average curve touches the average cost at point T corresponding to the point Q quantity and P is the price. P is the price, Q is the quantity. At equilibrium, MC equal to MR. So this is MR and this is MC, LMC, long run marginal cost curve that depicts supernormal profits are zero, and since the average revenue is equal to average cost, all firms are earning zero economic profits or just normal profits. In this case of persisting losses in the long run, the loss-making firm will exit from the market, and this will go to till the remaining firms make normal profits only. It is to be noted over here that the individual firm which is in equilibrium in the long run will be operating at levels at which it does not fully realize economies of large scale production. In other words, we can say that the plants are not used to optimum capacity. However, any attempt to produce more or secure the advantage of least cost production will be irrational, since the price reduction to sell the larger output will exceed the cost reduction made possible. And if output is increased up to R in the given figure, we find that the average total cost will be greater than the average revenue. Average cost will be the greater than average revenue. Thus, a monopolistically competitive firm which is in equilibrium in the long run is in a position where it has excess capacity. That is, it is producing a lower quantity than full capacity level. The firm in figure 31 could explain its output from point Q to point R and reduce average cost. But it does not do so because in doing so, the firm would reduce average revenue more than it reduces the average cost. This implies that the firm in monopolistic competition are not a optimum size and exist excess capacity, that is QR, in other examples of the production with each firm. The following table represent a comparison of the three markets forms we have discussed so far. Table 7. Comparison of perfect competition, monopoly and monopolistic competitions. In perfect competition, we have large number of buyers and sellers. So large number of buyers and large number of firms, that is sellers in the industry. In the monopoly, as we know that single seller and no difference between the firm and the industry, because the industry consists of a single firm or a single seller. In a monopolistic competition, we have large number of buyers and large number of firms in the industry, but they are generally differentiate themselves in terms of the product. So the second point is, in perfect competition, homogeneous products which are perfect substitute to each other. In monopoly, no close substitutes are available, although the substitutes are available, but close substitutes perfectly no. In case of monopolistic competition, differentiated products which are close substitutes but not perfect substitute with each other. In case of perfect competition, insignificant market share. In case of perfect competition, the market share is insignificant. In case of monopoly, command over the whole market. So they basically there is only a single seller, so they cover the whole market. In monopolistic competition, each firm is small relative to the market. So they have a a small percentage in the market share. Point number 4. In perfect competition, competitive among firms is perfect. Competition among the firms is perfect. In monopoly, there is an absence of competition because there is no competitor. In a monopolistic market, the competition is imperfect because it's a non-price competition prevails over here. It's a non-price competition, competition on the basis of innovation, competition on the basis of product differentiation prevails over monopolistic competition. Point number 5. Complete absence of monopoly. In perfect competition, there is a complete absence of monopoly. In monopoly, high degree of monopoly power prevails, and in monopolistic competition, some degrees of monopoly power due to the product differentiation. In perfect competition, the free entry and exit prevails in the market. In monopoly, strong barriers to entry prevails in the market, and in monopolistic market, free entry and exit is there. In perfect competition, the firm is a price taker and not a price maker. In monopoly, the firm is a price maker and not a price taker. In a monopolistic competitions, they some control over price they have, but not the full control over the price. In perfect competition, price is equal to the marginal cost, AR equal to MR. In monopoly, price is higher than the marginal cost and price is higher than marginal cost in case of the monopolistic competition. So in perfect competition, price is equal to marginal cost. So AR equal to MC. Next point. In a perfect competition, price less than other market forms. Generally, the price is less as compared to other market forms because large number of sellers and large number of buyers are there and it's a perfect competition. The next is monopoly, high equilibrium price. In case of monopolistic competition, price is high as compared to the perfect competition. Next, in perfect competition, demand curve is infinitely elastic. In monopoly, demand curve is downward sloping and highly inelastic demand curve. In monopolistic competition, downward sloping and more elastic demand curve as compared to monopoly. In perfect competition, marginal revenue and average revenue represent that the same curve, MR equal to M, AR equal to P, that is price. In case of monopoly, marginal revenue starts at the same point as AR and is twice steep when as compared to AR. MR starts at a point of AR and is twice steep as compared to AR. In case of perfect competition, total revenue straight line positively sloping through the origin. But in case of monopoly, total revenue is inverted U-shaped. In case of monopolistic, total revenue is U-shaped. Inverted U-shaped. In perfect competition, no price discrimination since same price is there for all the units. In case of monopoly, can practice price discrimination by selling the product to different prices. In a monopolistic competition, the price depends upon the extent of monopoly power the firm has. If the firm is having more monopoly power, in that case price discrimination is possible, otherwise not. In case of perfect competition, no supernormal profits in the long run could be achieved. In monopoly, supernormal profits both in the short run is possible and in long run also it is possible. In monopolistic competition, no supernormal profits in the long run is possible because in the long run all the firms will achieve only normal profits. In case of perfect competition, no selling cost. Generally, low selling cost only for informing the consumers. Due to severe competition, selling costs are vital to persuade buyers. In case of perfect competition, price being given decided only quantity of output. Price is given or prevailing in the market, we cannot affect the price, but yes, we can affect the quantity of output. In case of monopoly, decides on both the price as well as the output, because over here the monopoly or the monopolist is the price maker. In monopolistic competition, decides on both price as well as output. Perfect competition, product is produced at a minimum average cost. In monopoly, product is produced at a declining portion of the average cost curve. In monopolistic competition, produced at a declining portion of average cost curve. In a perfect competition, equilibrium quantity is highest and produced at least cost. In a monopoly, equilibrium quantity is less than the market forms, and in monopolistic competition, equilibrium quantity is less than the optimum, there is excess capacity available. In case of perfect competition, the consumer, there is no consumer exploitation. The exploitation is not possible at all because the firm is a price taker and not a maker. In case of monopoly, consumers can be exploited by charging higher prices, by producing less. Monopolistic competition, so consumers are influenced through price and non-price competition. In case of perfect competition, efficient allocation of resources is possible. In case of monopoly, inefficient allocation of resources. In case of monopolistic competition, there is inefficient allocation of resources. In case of perfect competition, no wastage of resources is possible. In case of monopoly, wastage of resources is possible. And in case of monopolistic competition, huge wastage of resources for advertisement purpose. I believe you understood till here. The next concept is oligopoly. The next concept is oligopoly. So in oligopoly market, there is a very few sellers available and they are interdependent upon each other. They form a group and many a times they form a cartel. They generally compete themselves, but the competition is non-price competition, and basically the impact of advertising and cost is prevailing into the market. So let us see, we have studies price and output determination under the three market forms, namely perfect competition, monopoly and monopolistic competition. However, in the real world economies, we find that many of the industries are oligopolistic also. Oligopoly is an important form of imperfect competition. Oligopoly is often described as the competition among a few. Professor Stigler defines oligopoly as that situation in which a firm bases its market policy in part on the expected behavior of few close rivals. In other words, when there are few 2 to 10 sellers in the market selling homogeneous or differentiated products, oligopoly is said to exist. Oligopolies mostly arise due to those factors which are responsible for the emergence of monopolies. Unlike monopoly, where a single firm enjoys absolute market power, under oligopoly, a few firms exercise their part to keep possible competitors out. Consider an example of cold drink industry or automobile industry. There are a handful of firms manufacturing the cold drinks in India. Similarly, there are few firms in the automobile industry in India, airlines industries, petroleum refinery, power generation, supply in the most of the part of the country, mobile telephony and internet service providers are other examples of oligopolistic market. These industries exhibit some special features which are discussed in the following paragraphs. So generally what happens in an oligopoly market, there are very few sellers. You can say there are 2 sellers to 5 sellers or 2 to 10 sellers, and each seller selling homogeneous or differentiated product. Oligopoly is sometimes described as the competition among the few, as we have seen. So when the number of competitors are few, any change in the price or output or product by one firm will have a direct impact on the rival firm, who in then basically retaliate in changing their own prices, output, and advertising techniques. So it's not a favorable situation. So oligopolistic firms must consider not only the market demand of the industry, but as well as the reactions of other firms in the industry also. So to take the major decision, this is the one of the concept of interdependence in the decision making process in the oligopoly. Various firms in the oligopoly, what they do exactly, they have to employ aggressive as well as defensive marketing weapons and tools so to gain greater share in the market, or at least maintain their share into the market. These firms generally avoid price cutting and try to compete in a non-price competition, non-price basis. If they engage in the price discrimination, there will be a price war which will derive the firm out of the market, since consumer will try to buy from the sellers, the selling the cheapest price. And so we can say that oligopoly relates to the group behavior, not of the mass of individual behavior. There is generally no accepted theory of group behavior. Each oligopolist closely watches the business behavior of the oligopolist in the industry and designs the strategies on the basis of some assumptions of how they behave are likely to behave in an oligopoly market. Let's see the types of oligopoly now. Types of oligopoly. The first type of oligopoly is pure or perfect oligopoly. What happens in case of pure or perfect oligopoly? So, a pure or perfect oligopoly occurs when the product is homogeneous in nature. Uh, Example, aluminium industry. So, the product is homogeneous in nature. Example, aluminium. Just see over here. So pure oligopoly or perfect oligopoly occurs when the product is homogeneous in nature, example aluminium industry, and this type of oligopoly tend to produce raw materials or produce intermediate goods that use the inputs by other industries. Notable examples are petroleum, steel, aluminium. Differentiated or imperfect oligopoly occurs when the goods sold is based on the product differentiation, that is the talcum powder. Second form of oligopoly or type of oligopoly is open or closed oligopoly. Open oligopoly is basically the new firms can enter into the market and compete with the existing firms, and closed oligopoly means the firm's entry is restricted into the firm. Just see over here. In an open oligopoly, the new firms can enter into the market and compete, but in closed oligopoly, the entry is restricted. The third type is collusive oligopoly or competing oligopoly. What is a collusive oligopoly? So few forms of the oligopolistic market come to a common understanding or in a collusion basically with each other in fixing the price and output. So they basically fixes the price and they also fixes the output. This is known as collusive oligopoly. Competitive oligopoly is basically in case of absence of understanding among the firms and they compete with each other, and this is a natural situation. So, when a firm of an oligopoly market comes to a common understanding or act of collusion with each other of fixing the prices and output, or even both, it is a collusive oligopoly. When there is an absence of such understanding among the firms and they compete with each other, it is called competitive oligopoly. The next concept is partial oligopoly or full oligopoly. So, if I talk about partial oligopoly, it is a situation when the industry is dominated by one large firm which is considered or looking upon as the leader of the group, and the dominating firm will be a price leader. But in case of full oligopolies, the market will be conspicuous by the absence of price leadership. I believe you understood. Let's see point number 5, that is syndicated and organized oligopoly. What is a syndicated oligopoly? It refers to a situation where the firm sells their product through a centralized syndicate. See it over here, centralized syndicate. An organized oligopoly refers to a situation where the firms organize themselves into a central association for fixing the prices, output and quotas, etc. So these are the 5 types of oligopoly we have seen. We have seen pure oligopoly, perfect oligopoly. We have seen open and closed oligopoly, collusive and competitive oligopoly. We have seen partial full oligopoly and syndicated and organized oligopoly. Let us move ahead now and see the characteristics of oligopoly market. Let us learn the characteristics of or features of the oligopoly market. So the oligopolistic industry is dominated by a small number of large firms, and each of which is comparatively large relative to total size of the market. So these large firm exercises considerable control over the market. They have some market share, some reasonable market share. An oligopoly market may have a large number of firms along with very large firms, but most of the market share will be enjoyed by only few large firms, and therefore they conquer and retain market control. There are strong barriers to entry. Refer barriers to entry also that we have already referred. Let us begin from here, and that talks about strategic independence. That talks about strategic interdependence. So in an oligopoly market, strategically the different groups of the sellers, they interdependent upon each other. The most important feature of oligopoly is interdependent in decision making of a few firms which comprise of the industry. Since there are only few sellers, there will be an intense competition among the market, and under oligopoly, each seller is a big enough to influence the market. A firm has necessarily respond to the rival's action, and simultaneously the rival also responds to the firm's action. So supposingly you had reduced the price, in that case all the customers will shift to you, so your rival also need to reduce the price, that on the basis of your action, the firm's action, the rival firm will also do some action. So this is because when the number of competitors are few, any change in the price or output or product of a firm may have direct effect on the fortune of the rivals, who will then retaliate by changing their own prices, output and advertising technique as the case may be. It is therefore said that clear that an oligopolistic market firm consider not only the market demand for the product, but also and reactions of the other firms in the industry to any major decision it takes. An oligopoly firm that does not consider its rivals' behavior or incorrectly assumes them is likely to suffer a setback in any profits. Let's see the second point, and that talks about importance of advertising and selling cost in case of oligopoly. A direct effect of interdependence of oligopolists is that the firms have to employ various aggressive and defensive marketing weapons to gain greater share in the market or to maintain their share. So for this, the firms has to incur a good deal of cost on advertising and other measures of sales promotion. Therefore, there is a great importance of advertising and selling cost in an oligopoly market. It is to be noted that over here the firm is in such type of market avoid price cutting and try to compete on the basis of non-price competition, because if they start undercutting the prices, a type of price war will prevail, will emerge between the competitors, where will drive to the few of them out of the market, and the consumers will try to buy from the seller selling the cheapest price. I believe you got it. So strategic interdependence Point number one. Point number two, importance of advertising and selling cost. Third is the group behavior. So oligopoly relates to group behavior, but not of all the mass of individual behavior. We can say over here. So the theory of oligopoly is the theory of group behavior, not of mass or individual behavior, and it assumes profit maximizing or profit maximization behavior on the oligopolist part may not be very valid. There is a generally accepted theory of group behavior. The firms may agree to pull together as a group in promoting of other common interest. The group may or may not have a leader. If there is a firm which acts as a leader, it has to get others to follow it. These are some of the concerns of the theory of group behavior, but one thing is certain, each oligopolist closely watches the business behavior of the other oligopolist in the industry and designs his moves accordingly on the basis of some assumptions on how he behave or likely to behave. I believe you understood till. The next point is price and output decision in an oligopolistic market. So how the price of the product and output is decided in an oligopolist market. You see over here, oligopoly in fact describes the operation of number of large corporations in the world. The operations of these markets are characterized by strategic behavior of small firms, of rival firms. As mentioned above, the extent of power as well as the profit depends upon the great extent on how rival firms react to each other decisions. If the behavior is less competitive, that is, the rival firms behave in a cooperative manner, firms will enjoy market power and can charge the prices above marginal cost. An oligopolistic firm has to behave strategically when it makes a decision about its prices. It has to consider whether rival firms will keep their prices and quantities constant. When it makes the changes in its price and quantity, when an oligopolistic firm changes its price, its rival firm will retaliate and react and change their prices, which in turn would affect the demand of the former firm. Therefore, an oligopolistic firm cannot have sure and determinate demand curve since the demand curve keeps shifting as the rival changes their prices in reaction to the price changes made by it. Now, when an oligopolist does not know their demand curve, what price and output will be fixed, and the fix cannot be ascertained by economic analysis because they actually don't know their demand curve, because on the basis of their rival firms the demand curve changes. However, economists have established number of price output model for oligopoly market depending upon the behavior pattern of the other forms of the market, and different oligopoly settings give rise to different optimal strategies and diverse outcomes. The important oligopoly models are over here. The first important oligopoly model is, it is assumed that some economists that oligopolistic firms ignore their interdependence and make their decisions independently. When interdependence is ignored, the demand curve becomes definite and the equilibrium output is found out by equating marginal cost and marginal revenues. Second, some economists assume that an oligopolist is able to predict the reaction pattern of his competitors, and on the basis of prediction, he makes decisions relating to price as well as the quantity. In Carnot model, the firms cannot variable the control variable is output in contrast to price. They do not collude each other. In Stackberg's model, the leader commits to an output before all other firms, and the rest of the firms are followers and they choose the output so to maximize the profit given the leader's output. According to Bertrand model, price of the control variable of the firms, and each firms independently sets the price in order to maximize the profits. Let's see the third approach. The third approach is that oligopolist enters into agreement and try to pursue their common interest. They jointly act as a monopoly organization and fix their prices in such a manner that their joint profits are maximized. They will then share the profits, market, and output among them as agreed. Entering into collusion and forming a cartel is generally considered as illegal because it restricts the trade as well as creates a situation which are very close to monopoly. However, in reality, we find a number of cartels operating in the world economy who collude formally or in tactic manner, tacit manner. Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, is the best example of such type of agreement among the oligopolists. I believe you understood till here. We have just seen the important oligopoly models. The three important oligopoly models we have seen. We have learned the three important oligopoly models. Let us continue. The next concept is price leadership. The next concept is price leadership. Cartels are often formed in industries where there are only few firms and all of which are similar in size. A group of firms that explicitly agree, collude to coordinate their activities is called a cartel. Most cartels have only a subset of producers, so if the participating producers stick to the cartel's agreement, the cartel will have high market power and earn monopoly profits, especially when the demand of the product is inelastic. But it is possible that there is a dominant or large firms surrounded by the other number of small firms. If these firms are numerous or too unreliable, the large firms has to decide how to set its price taking into account the behavior of these fringe firms. One strategy is to adopt live and let live philosophy. Specifically, the dominant firm accepts the presence of fringe firms and sets the price to maximize its profits, taking into account the fringe firm's behavior. This is called price leadership by dominant firms. I repeat, specifically the dominant firms accept the presence of fringe firms and sets a price to maximize the profit, taking into account the fringe firm's behavior. This is called price leadership by dominant firms. Another type of price leadership is by low cost firms. Here, the price leader sets the price in such a manner that it allows some profits to the followers also, and then they could be barometric price leadership under which an old, experienced and largest and most respected firm act as a leader and assesses the market conditions with regard to demand, cost, competition, and makes changes in the price which are best from the view point of all and the firm in the industry. Whatever price is charged by the price leader is generally accepted by the follower firms. Thus, we find that fixing the price under oligopoly is very tricky affair and involves a number of assumptions regarding the behavior of oligopolistic group. So that was price leadership. Let us see the next concept, and that is kinked demand curve. The next concept, that is kinked demand curve. The most popular explanation given by an American economist, that is Paul Sweezy. This is also known as a Sweezy's model. Let's see the effects on the price reduction by one oligopolist. What happens? What happens in king demand curve? And what is the effects of the price reduction by one oligopolist? So each oligopolist firm believes that if it lowers the price below the prevailing level, its competitors will follow that and form and will accordingly lower the prices. Its competitors start feeling that if they do not follow the price cut, their own consumers will move away and buy from the firm which has lowered the prices. So, to maintain their own customers, generally the competitor firms will also lower the prices to maintain their customer or their customer base. Hence, if oligopolistic market or if oligopolistic firms reduces the prices, the demand will be inelastic or less elastic. The demand curve in such a case will become more steeper, and very little increase in sales quantity can be obtained by the reduction in price, because the rest of the firms or the remaining firm will also follow and will reduce the price to maintain their customer base. I believe you understood till here. Let us see the text. It has been observed that many oligopolistic industries remain sticky or inflexible for a long time. They tend to change infrequently, even in the face of declining cost. Many explanations have been given for for this price rigidity under oligopoly, and most popular explanation is kinked demand curve, given by American economist Paul A. Sweezy. Hence, it is called Sweezy's model. The demand curve facing an oligopolist, according to the kinked demand curve hypothesis, has a kink at the level of prevailing price, and this is because the segment of the demand curve above the prevailing price is highly elastic, and segment of the demand curve below the prevailing price is inelastic. A king demand curve DD with a king at point P is shown over here. Just see it properly. Kinked demand curve under oligopoly. The prevailing price level is MP, and the firm produces to sells the output, that is OM. Now the upper segment DP of the demand curve DD is relatively elastic, and the lower segment is relatively inelastic. So this is relatively elastic upper segment, and this is relatively inelastic lower segment. I believe you understood till here. Lower segment PD is relatively inelastic. The difference is in elasticities is due to the particular competitive reaction pattern assumed by the kinked demand curve hypothesis. This assumed pattern, each oligopolist believes that if it lowers the price below the prevailing level of its competition will follow him and will accordingly lowers the prices. Whereas, if it raises the prices above the prevailing level, its competitors will not follow its increase in prices. This is because when an oligopolistic firm lowers the prices of the product, its competitors will feel that they do not follow the price cut. Their consumers will run away from them and buy from the firm which has lowered the prices. Thus, in order to remain in the competition and maintain the consumers or customers, they will also lower the prices. The lower portion of the demand curve PD is price inelastic, showing that a very little increase in the sales can be obtained by reduction in the price in an oligopolist. On the other hand, if the firm increases the prices of the product, there will be a substantial reduction in the sales, because that result is in rise in the prices. Its customer will withdraw from it and go to the competitors, which will welcome the new customers and will gain in sales. These happy competitors will have therefore no motivation to match the price rise. The oligopolistic who raises the price will lose a great deal and therefore refrain from increasing the price. This behavior of the oligopolist explains the elastic upper portion of the demand curve, showing a larger fall in the sales when they increase the prices. Briefly, put the effect on the price cut on the quantity demanded of the product in an oligopolistic firm depends upon whether it rivals retaliate by cutting the prices. Similarly, the effect of the price increases on the quantity demanded of an oligopoly firm product depends upon whether its rival responds by raising their prices as well or not. Each oligopolist over here will adhere to the prevailing price, seeing no gain in changing it, and a kink will be formed at a prevailing price, because if they change the prices, they will not be getting any benefit. Thus, rigid or sticky prices are explained by kinked demand curve theory. Oligopolistic firms often have a strong desire for price stability. Although cost or demand change, oligopolistic firms are reluctant to modify price set by it. We have just seen a new concept, and that is kinked demand curve, which is also known as Sweezy's model because it is given by the American economist Paul A. Sweezy. This is a kinked demand curve under oligopoly. So there is a two segment, upper segment and a lower segment. Upper segment is relatively elastic because if you increase the price, there will be a considerable decrease in the sales because the number or all the consumers will shift to the different sellers. And if you decrease the price, in that case, the rest of the sellers also decrease the price, and you would not be able to get the benefit of decreased price. So that is the relatively inelastic in lower segment. I believe all of you must have understood it well. Let's see the next concept, and that is other important market forms. Some other important market forms are, the first form is duopoly. So duopoly is a subset of oligopoly. Duopoly is a subset of oligopoly. So oligopoly over here, the duopoly is a market situation where there are only two firms prevails in the market. What is monopsony? So monopsony is a market characterized by single buyer. There is only one and only one buyer of a product or service, and is most applicable to factor markets in which a single firm is the only buyer of the product. The next is oligopsony, is a market characterized by small number of large buyers and the mostly relevant to factor markets. Small number but large buyer of large buyers and is mostly relevant to factor markets. And the last is bilateral monopoly, is a market structure where there is only single buyer and a single seller. That is, it is a combination of monopoly market and monopsony market. So bilateral monopoly is a combination of monopoly market as a single seller and a monopsony market, that is a single buyer. I hope you must have understood it well till here. So what we have done in today's class, let us take a quick revision of what we have done in today's class. So we had seen the feature of monopolistic market, large number of sellers, differentiated products, freedom of entry and exit, and non-price competition. Then we have seen the price output determination under monopolistic competition, that is equilibrium of a firm, how equilibrium of a firm can be achieved. There is a condition for the equilibrium, MR equal to MC and MC should be rising. or MC curve should cut the MR curve from below. We have seen short run equilibrium of a firm under monopolistic competition with losses, long term equilibrium of a firm of monopolistic competition. The comparison between the all three markets, perfect competition, monopoly and monopolistic competition. And at last we began with the oligopoly. Seen the meaning of oligopoly, the types of oligopoly, that is pure oligopoly, perfect oligopoly, open and closed oligopoly, collusive and competitive oligopoly, partial and full oligopoly, syndicated and organized oligopoly, and characteristics of oligopoly market. In this, we have seen the strategic interdependence. We have seen importance of advertising and selling cost prevails, group behavior, price and output decision in oligopolist market. The important oligopoly, the three important oligopoly models we have seen, then price leadership, and at last kinked demand curve, the significant one, and at last we have seen the other important forms of market. Fine, so we wind up the class till here only. We will continue further in the next session. Thank you.